All right, here we are, Tuesday morning, living A Course in Miracles. We could also say practicing A Course in Miracles, because we practice. And today we're going to look at practicing in terms of our main practice is choosing or deciding for the Holy Spirit, because we're just entering what is the Holy Spirit in our lessons. If we're going through the workbook in a linear way, having started at January 1st of 2019, then today we would be starting with what is the Holy Spirit, page 437, and we would begin with lesson 281. So that's where we are if we're going chronologically. And there are some things that you have to understand, maybe not understand, but accept as a premise if you are going to fully engage in A Course in Miracles and not be fighting it every step of the way. And it is something that I don't think you hear about in other paths, which perhaps make this one a little more, what should we say, unexpected. You don't usually find the statement, there is no world. And that idea put out from the very beginning of A Course in Miracles, that there is no world and that there is no body, B-O-D-Y, that the body at no one instant does it exist. It is always remembered or projected into the future, but it does not exist in the present moment. So both the world and the body do not exist in the present moment. And given the present moment is the only moment in which we can choose and listen to and allow ourselves to be guided by the Holy Spirit. So, the idea that I'm not a body and the idea that the world can't do anything to me because it's not there, those are two primary ideas that must be accepted. And we will hear those throughout A Course in Miracles being repeated in many, many ways, although not overtly, but by inference, it is always there that the foundation of the Course's practice, which is forgiveness, the foundation of that practice is that step number one, that there is nothing outside of ourselves doing anything to us. We're simply looking at a representation, a projection, a shadow, if you will, that is reflecting an inner state of mind. And it's the inner state of mind, or mind, step two of forgiveness, where we need to look at what is going on in the mind. What idea am I believing? What ideas am I believing in this moment? And to look at the false, which really is the Holy Spirit's job. We don't know the difference between what is true and what is false. But it is the Holy Spirit's function to teach us the difference between the true and the false. And how we ultimately learn that is looked at with the Holy Spirit when we decide with the Holy Spirit. And we're going to learn today that if we are not with the Holy Spirit, if we have not invited the Holy Spirit to be our guide and teacher, we are indeed alone. We are alone. I thought that idea was an awakening in itself. You know, to get that if I'm going through my day with the ego and I'm not joyful, joy, the Holy Spirit is also the call to joy. So if I'm with the Holy Spirit, I am joyful. That's one of the symptoms of being with the Holy Spirit. I'm joyful. No harm can come. And I need do nothing. Last class, I think we talked so much about doing nothing. And that's what it means by doing nothing. When I'm with the Holy Spirit, I have decided to decide with the Holy Spirit. And Jesus says, this is what makes you like me, our joint decision. I learned to listen only to one voice. That was the voice of the Holy Spirit. And when we listen to only the voice of the Holy Spirit, which is the only voice there is, the only companion there is, the only thing that can lead us out of our self-deception on a scale so vast it could hardly be imagined, lead us out of our self-deception. And so choosing to go through the day not alone, in isolation, which is why we're fearful and we expect bad things to happen. We anticipate enemies all around us because we're going through our day alone, in isolation. And we're going to read this morning together The Appointed Friend, which is the shortest section in A Course in Miracles. It's only 3 or 4 paragraphs long. But the appointed friend is the friend that God has given us to walk with us. The Holy Spirit, will learn in what is the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is God's gift to us. The Holy Spirit is my best friend, and in fact, my only friend, because our friend is in the mind. So step 2 of forgiveness always takes us from the belief that there's a world out there and that there's a body out there, including my body out there. At no instant does the body exist at all. So the body cannot be sick. The body, can't be fearful. The body can't be depressed. The body can't be anxious. All of those things that we ascribe to and think the body is telling us how we are, and that it's telling me, oh, I'm anxious today, or I'm fearful today, or I'm worried today, no, all of that is coming from the mind. So we have to learn what it means to get to the place of step 2 of forgiveness, which is in the mind. And what is going on in my mind that I am worried or anxious or fearful or doubtful? What am I believing? Well, it's pretty much always the same things. And really, there's only one thing. I believe I am separated from love. I'm separated from the truth. I'm separated from help. I'm separated in some way or other, and I'm fearful. It's always going to be some form of fear. So last night when I was looking at this, what is the Holy Spirit? Before I ever read the section, The Appointed Friend, I realized that, it all, again, our willingness or our advancement in the curriculum is determined really by one thing alone, and that is whether I will refer everything, all my worries, all my cares, all my problems, all my doubts, all my fears, to the Holy Spirit and say, you decide for God, for me, because I don't even know how to decide for God. I'm still too afraid of God. And the Holy Spirit is that bridge that knows exactly how to do that, knows how to translate everything that we're afraid of and show us that there's nothing there. There's absolutely, there was never anything there. And to, take us back to healing our minds. So when I was thinking about that, and today, the first thing that came to my mind was, in order to do that, I have to be willing, at least for a moment, to realize that it's all nothing. That's where it comes in. Ken keeps saying, don't take this seriously. Now, obviously it's not all going to disappear right away. And obviously, we are going to see things externally. But one of the problems, I think, is that saying this is nothing, there's no world and there's nothing out there, that can be said with many different attitudes. And that's why it's not serious, it's pretty neutral, because it doesn't mean I hate it, which often is the way we look at it. When we realize there's no world out there and we're willing to go there, then the next thing that the ego comes up with, well, then let's just hate it. That's making it real. And the other way is, oh, I love it. It's just so magnificent. It's wonderful. And, pleasure or pain, the ego doesn't care. We've made it real. And as soon as we do that, we're imprisoned. Bruce, I think you want to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm slowly but surely making my way through Ken's probably most scholarly book, Love Does Not Condemn, where he compares Gnosticism, Platonism, and Christianity, and A Course in Miracles. And it's an interesting read. I wouldn't recommend it for everyone, and probably certainly not for new course students. But it's he talks about how the Gnostic denial of the flesh kind of thing, and some basically like what you're just saying is the either the extreme immersion in or aversion from the world. Either one of them makes the dream real. So it's basically the recognition that anything involving space or time or individuality and the whole ego's whole thought system of sin, guilt, and fear is really just, those are all just different strategies of the ego to make the idea of separation and the tiny little speck, even within the dream of the silly, seemingly separate self that we think we are, real. And so if we can just begin to adopt, a gentle, forgiving attitude toward ourselves and everyone, it's like, oh, well, our whole sensory apparatus is designed to misinterpret and blow up completely out of proportion the importance of that whole realm of stuff and make big deals out of stuff. And it takes, like you're talking about the 3 steps of forgiveness, it takes a while to learn to trust the Holy Spirit through the whole process. I like the 3 R's approach, reveal, release, and replace. And, reveal that there's nothing there in the world of space and time that isn't already in the mind. And then release our investment in it as an identity. And both of those steps totally require Holy Spirit's help. And then Holy Spirit is the agency that does the rest. And the step 3, we just have to get the heck out of the way and let it replace what never was with the awareness of the truly infinitely shared interest, and let that be the source of the joy and the peace that is behind the special love and the special hate and all that craziness.
Yeah, exactly. The third step is shared interest. The third step is a moment at the top of the ladder, where we are totally trusting for just a moment, and we're not trying to figure things out. It's possible. Perception. There's a place, I don't know where it is, where he says perception's not needed at all. Interpretation, he's talking about. You don't need to be interpreting every single thing. Perception is not needed. So, being available, being still, and doing nothing is where we're headed. We can see how resistant we are to that.
Exactly. And as you're saying that, and I was thinking, it seems like a huge part of my daily curriculum is just watching how much I want to interpret everything and judge everything and make big deals out of things that really in the cosmic sense, even on the material level, are inconsequential, let alone in truth. And then, just kind of, learn to forgive myself for wanting to go there all the time and just say, oh yeah, that has never worked. That has never worked. And I think the whole course is so much a curriculum of just through repetition and practice, just noticing how much our mind wants to go there and seeing how ineffective it is in a very pragmatic way, and just saying, oh, that's never worked. I think I could choose another teacher. And voila, there's only 2. And that other one works consistently, and the other one consistently leads to the pain.
Yep.
Yeah.
We got that, Toyota. Anybody else have some thoughts about this, or thoughts you would really just like to get rid of, but like to share? All right. Continuing a little bit, I have some few notes here about not taking things seriously. What not taking it seriously means, again, instead of not hitting it or not loving it, is it means that it's not valuable in any way. It has no value. So the only way it can have no value is if it's nothing. Otherwise we're trying to make it valuable in some way. So the idea that it can give me pleasure or it can give me pain, either way will trap me. That's not often acceptable, but because we really, so much of our life here is dependent upon thinking we can find some pleasure in the world. So it can be devastating. But the more we look at it, the more we realize that it is true. I mean, if pleasure comes, it's going to go. Nothing lasts forever, which is the test of value. I mean, I think it's the first test the Course gives us, whether something is valuable or not. The question is, will it last forever? If it won't last forever, then it's hardly worth your time and energy. The other thing about the course is that I find so remarkable. Somebody sent me something yesterday from another teacher, and they were raving about the teacher's teaching. And it metaphysically, it was brilliant. And if you followed it and understood the metaphysics, and you believed it 100%, it would probably get you there. I'm not arguing whether it would get you there or not get you there. But the thing, after and let me back up another minute, I like listening to other paths. And, I've always done that pretty much. And every time I've done that or, been with another teacher, it hasn't been to criticize. I want to see that path and how it works. And they've always brought me back to A Course in Miracles. Because the one thing that none of them has had is the psychology of our fear of God. The psychology that gets worked out in our relationships with one another. So it makes everything vital and usable and valuable in that sense. If we're looking at it with the Holy Spirit, then, oh my God, everything is a classroom. Absolutely, everything becomes a classroom. And our life, because it has the Holy Spirit's purpose now of healing and forgiveness, that we are no longer wandering around aimlessly as bodies in a dream. It's like a ship with its sails. The sails, meaning spirit or the Holy Spirit, is always blowing, so to speak. It's always available. But if we don't have a rudder to steer with, then, we're going to be wrecked by the winds. We just have no direction to let the Holy Spirit move our lives internally in the mind. And so purpose is essential. And that purpose in A Course in Miracles is to learn God's Son is guiltless. And it's the only thing Jesus asks us to learn. The only thing the teacher of God needs to teach is God's Son is guiltless. And that's it. But I don't know anywhere else that has ever appeared. And I think without that psychology and the Course's way of undoing our fear of love, and Jesus being the teacher of the atonement, which is finally where we are all headed, is nothing happened. I get it. Every time I go, Holy Spirit, decide for God for me, I see that nothing happened. What I thought my brother did, I don't even remember what I thought he did. It's gone. And so we keep doing that over and over again. And so the playing field on which we are learning from the Holy Spirit, becoming learners together here, and we are all here to learn from the Holy Spirit. The playing field is always going to be our relationships. Even if it's about my career, it's about the relationships in the career. Even if it's about having surgery, it's about the people that I meet along the way and how I relate to them. So everything is always only about learning. Minds are joined. That my brother, you know, the nurse at the hospital, she's innocent, even if she didn't stick me right, or you know, even if the report wasn't a good one. Everybody is still innocent. We can all do that, regardless of whether what's going on in our life, regardless of what it looks like, even up to and on our deathbeds. This is a classroom. The Holy Spirit is the teacher. You know, how exciting it would be or is to approach leaving this world in that way, and having invited the Holy Spirit to join us on the journey. And, you know, it's like, wow, we're going to finally get to learn here what's on the other side of, you know, dragging this body around. So everything becomes exciting with the Holy Spirit. All right, so let's see. Where should we go first?
Can I share something, Lynn, real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
What you said a few minutes ago about values kind of got me to thinking is there's nothing valuable in the world but giving each incident, each experience to the Holy Spirit to translate and replace ego's misinterpretation with the Holy Spirit's translation. It's like, oh, this is an opportunity to get back to the mind, get back to the decision maker, and to choose the other thought system of forgiveness and kindness and shared interest. And from that perspective, then everything becomes valuable. Instead of ego's, nothing is valuable. But
Yes.
it's not the specific thing isn't valuable in itself. It's valuable only because the Holy Spirit sees that everything can be used to return to the mind and return to that decision point in the mind and choose the atonement.
Absolutely. And that's why it's joyful. That's why the Holy Spirit's call is the call to joy. And our response is the answer to joy, because everything can be used, and all of the Holy Spirit's lessons are joyful. They're, you know, the Holy Spirit doesn't punish us. They're all joyful lessons. So if you really want to deepen in that idea of joy with the Holy Spirit, chapter 5 is just great for that. It's healing and wholeness. And of course, when we think of Holy Spirit, it really means whole mind, the indivisible mind, which is spirit is its source is the wind, so to speak, and the Holy Spirit's mind is the one that's showing us reality, teaching us what reality is. I wanted to read this. This is on page 77, and it is
The text.
paragraph 9 in the text. Yes, page 77. And it's in this section. It's chapter 5, section 2, and it's in the section, the voice for God. And the Holy Spirit is often referred to, of course, as the voice for God. Paragraph 9. The way we become like Jesus, or the way we accept Jesus, is by deciding the way he decided. And he refers to it as the joint decision. You decide the same thing I decided. And here's what he says about it. My mind will always be like yours because we were created as equals. It was only my decision that gave me all power in heaven and earth. My only gift to you is to help you make the same decision. This decision is a choice to share it, because the decision itself is the decision to share. It's the decision for joint or shared interests. It's the decision that we are all one, that minds are joined, and mind of the sonship is the self, capital S self, that we are as one. It is made by giving and is therefore the one choice that resembles true creation. I'm your model for decision. By deciding for God, I showed you that this decision can be made and you can make it. I have assured you that the mind, and now it's a capital M mind, you'll see, that decided for me is also in you, Holy Spirit, and that you can let it change you just as it changed me. This mind is unequivocal because it hears only one voice and answers in only one way. You are the light of the world with me. Rest does not come from sleeping, but from waking. The Holy Spirit is the call to waken and be glad. The world is very tired because it is the idea of weariness. Our task is the joyous one of waking to the call for God. Everyone will answer the call of the Holy Spirit, or the sonship cannot be one. What better vocation could there be for any part of the kingdom than to restore it to the perfect integration that can make it whole? Hear only this through the Holy Spirit within you, and teach your brothers to listen as I am teaching you. Any thoughts about that? So if we're taking Jesus as our teacher, this is again what he's asking us to do. And of course, this would lead us home. It would lead us to the resurrection. It would lead us to everything that we've been seeking out there, where there's nothing of value at all. And so believing this, I think, is the challenge, to actually believe that this is going to be the source of our joy, ultimately. And then go to page 90. And this is about the decision, more about the decision. Decision cannot be difficult. This is obvious if you realize that you must already have decided not to be wholly joyous if that is how you feel. So if I'm not joyous, it's not because of something you did to me, or the world did to me, or my body did to me. If I'm not joyous, it's because I decided not to be joyous. I want to be a victim. I still want to have enemies. I want to have somebody to blame. Oh, well, don't take that seriously. Don't make a big deal out of it. Just notice, we just are being asked to notice it. Therefore, the first step in the undoing is to recognize simply that you actively decided wrongly. That's all. I decided wrongly. That's just a simple statement, not a big deal. I must have decided wrongly. But I can actively decide otherwise. If I decided wrongly, I can decide rightly. I can decide for the Holy Spirit. And then he says, be very firm. with yourself in this. Get strict with yourself. Get strict with myself. We know when we're about to do it, right? We know when we're about to go down the tunnel with no cheese at the end of it. No value at the end of it. This way, Shakespeare said, madness lies. If I go down this way, there's going to be madness. So be very firm with yourself. I really am finding, getting more and more strict with myself because noticing more and more. And the temptation is there, yes. The temptation to make the error real is there, to make the world real, to make the world a cause. And it's like, no, I'm not going there. I want to be with my friend, my appointed friend that's going to take me home instead. So be very firm with yourself and keep yourself fully aware that the undoing process, which does not come from you, is nevertheless within you because God placed it there, the Holy Spirit. Your part is merely to return your thinking to the point at which the error was made in your mind, not out there, and give it over to the atonement in peace. Say this to yourself as sincerely as you can. Notice he says, probably you're not going to be totally sincere about this, but as sincerely as you can, remembering the Holy Spirit will respond to your slightest invitation. Slightest invitation. Just a nod in his direction. I must have decided wrongly because I'm not at peace. That's always the clue. My mind is conflicted. There are two thought systems going on, and I'm going back and forth between the two of them. And I'm listening to the voice that leads to madness. I made the decision by myself. I made it. But I can also decide otherwise. I want to decide otherwise. Now we have to move from, yeah, I did that. Now I can move my desire and my wanting and say, I want to decide otherwise because I actually want to be at peace. I do not feel guilty because the Holy Spirit, his job, is to undo all the consequences of my wrong decision if I will let him. I choose to let him by deciding, by allowing him to decide for God, for me. So my only decision really is just to choose the Holy Spirit. Now we hear that over and over and over and over again from Ken. And that's that's it with the Course in Miracles. That's the one thing that we really need to do is turn away from the world and believing it's valuable, believing the bodies are valuable, and go back to the mind and choose the Holy Spirit to decide for God for me. How hard is that? Does that seem complicated, or how does that seem?
It's very simple on the face of it, but to operate it takes a little challenge. Bruce, I was thinking of your 3 R's. There's 4 more here. In sentence 1, it says realize. In sentence 3, it says recognize. And then in sentence 6, it says respond. And in sentence 5, it says remember. So you got 4 more R's.
Cool, thank you. which paragraph are you reading?
What's that?
Paragraph
where are you reading?
6.
Paragraph 6.
6? Okay, the one on page 90?
Yes.
One,
Okay.
realize.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Sentence
Thank,
3, recognize.
yeah.
Sentence 5, remember. Or sentence 6, remember and respond.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Very good. Thank
It's
you.
get it, it's getting complicated. I don't know whether I can remember 6 R's. Or is it only 5?
There's 7 now. This is 3 and these 4.
I was just going to share. Thank you for that, David. That's really cool. I was just going to share when you were talking about being strict. I was thinking the ego has co-opted the idea of strictness and discipline and turned it into a punitive, cruel idea because we think that we need to, you know, basically go out of our way to, in advance punish ourselves before God can do it. And so we say, oh, I'll be strict and discipline myself. And the implication, the unconscious implication is like, oh, that's a meanness or a cruelty involved, because that's the only thing the ego knows that would relate to its seemingly guilty, sinful, truant thought system. But the discipline that Jesus is asking us here is the discipline and the strictness of just watching our mind diligently, consistently, patiently, and finding the joy that comes from that practice of being consistently disciplined and strict with ourselves, not in any kind of punitive way, any kind of mean-spirited way, but exactly the opposite. In order to really gentleness and to really experience the peace and the joyousness that's behind all the special stuff, we have to just really be willing to look at our mind consistently and just be willing to forgive ourselves for when we have those lapses, like it says in lesson 93, right? And just pick ourselves up and it's like, okay, get back on back on track again. Yeah.
The Holy Spirit needs a happy learner. And that the ego's version, you're right, is strict, is mean and nasty, get out the whip. But I find the more we turn to the Holy Spirit, the more alert we get to making the error real, or making the world or something external real. And we become more and more aware of it. And it's like being really aware of it is the kind of strictness, I think, that comes of the Holy Spirit. He really, it helps us to be alert to the illusions that we are believing in. And as we go along, we become more and more alert to it. It's almost, the image that comes to my mind is, have you ever seen a cat watching its potential prey? Like we have birds that come on our balcony all the time, and my cat will sit there for hours on end watching the birds, just so attentive and so alert. And I think when we start to rest in that place within us where we realize we don't need to do anything. My day doesn't need to be filled with angst. I can be really busy, but I don't have to be filled with anxiety. I can be filled with alertness. And that, that seems to be the mind of the Holy Spirit, is helping us to use everything as a classroom. And when we get that, that's not mean and nasty. That's really joyous. I mean, we could be filled with joy all day long if we chose. Just choose me, Holy Spirit saying, me, sister, me, choose me. I'm in school in first grade. I got the answer. The Holy Spirit's got the answer. He's out there. Call on me. That's a good image to carry with us. Let's go to page 70 in the manual. It is...
I was just thinking, Len, you were talking about strict attention or awareness.
Yes.
A good word is focus.
Yes.
Focus is another good word for that.
Yep. What do I want? Yeah. Yeah. We're getting a lot of feedback, or at least I'm hearing a lot of feedback. I don't know if anybody is running anything or, but if you're not speaking, maybe to go on mute, and maybe that will take care of that vibration. This is page 70, and it's in the manual. It's the very last subject after what is the resurrection. And this is like Jesus saying, okay, I'm signing off now, and I'm leaving you with the Holy Spirit. I've been your teacher, every page of this book, every word, came from me. I've been with you, I've been holding your hand, but now here you go. So let's go down to paragraph 2, sentence 6. And Colleen, could you read that? Do you have your book? You're on mute. So unmute. Paragraph 2, sentence 6.
Okay. I have also told you that the crucifixion was the last.
Nope. You're in the wrong place. Page 70 in the manual for teachers.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. What was that again?
Page 70 at the back, at the very end of the manual for teachers.
All right. Paragraph 2, sentence 5. Surely.
Sentence 6.
Okay. The curriculum is highly individualized, and all aspects are made under the Holy Spirit's particular care and guidance. Ask, and he will answer. The responsibility is his, and he alone is fit to assume it. To do so is his function. To refer the questions to him is yours. Would you want to be responsible for decisions about which you understand so little? Be glad you have a teacher who cannot make a mistake. His answers are always right. Would you say that of yours?
How do you feel about that, Colleen?
I feel that that's right on. I mean, I know nothing, and I mean nothing. So that describes it very, very well for me.
Does it make you feel comfortable, comforted?
It does, because I don't have to be right, don't have to know, nor do I even have to try to be right and to know. So that is comforting. It is.
All right, Jeannie, would you read the next paragraph, please?
Okay. There is another advantage, and a very important one, in referring decisions to the Holy Spirit with increasing frequency. Perhaps you have not thought of this aspect, but its certainly centrality is obvious. To follow the Holy Spirit's guidance is to let yourself be absolved of guilt. This is the essence of the atonement. It is this core of the curriculum. The imagined usurping of functions not your own is the basis of fear. The whole world you see reflects the illusion that you have done so, making fear inevitable. To return the function to the one to whom it belongs is thus the escape from fear. And it is this that lets the memory of love return to you. Do not then think that the following of the Holy Spirit's guidance is necessary merely because of your own inadequacy. It is the way out of hell for you.
That's enough to stop us in our tracks, isn't it? You know, I once heard Gangaji. I did spend some time with her in her orbit, and I once heard her speak of how she woke up with her master, Papaji, and she said his presence stopped her. She said, "I just stopped." And it was over. And you know, that's sort of the feeling I get when I hear this and read this. It's like, well, what is there for me to figure out? What is there for me, you know, as a person to do in order to awaken? Nothing. Nothing. Stop interfering. Stop. That's nothing. And he makes it so clear. Here again is the paradox often referred to in this course. To say of myself, I can do nothing, is to gain all power. And yet, it is but a seeming paradox. As God created you, not as you've made yourself, but as God created you, not the self-concept we've made of ourselves, but as God created you, you have all power. The image you've made has none. So when I speak of the person, our personhood, it's the image we've made of ourselves, the story we tell about ourselves, the victimization that we feel comes from external to our minds, but from outside. That is all false. The Holy Spirit knows the truth about you. The image you made does not. Yet despite its obvious and complete ignorance, which Colleen referred to, this image assumes it knows all things because you have given that belief to it. Such is your teaching and the teaching of the world that was made to uphold it. But the teacher who knows the truth has not forgotten it. His decisions bring benefit to all, being wholly devoid of attack and therefore incapable of arousing guilt. So one of the clues that we're following the Holy Spirit, because it often comes up, how do I know I'm listening to the Holy Spirit, to the voice for God? Well, the answer, first of all, brings peace to us, but it also brings peace to everyone. No one is ever left out of that understanding. It's the shared interests. What we ask for, what we desire is only what can be given to everyone simultaneously. So no one is ever excluded, and that's where the peace comes from. I mean, if somebody is left out, then we're holding a part of ourselves outside the Holy Spirit and refusing to give it over to the Holy Spirit. So, you know, the self that we are cannot be complete. It cannot be whole. And therefore we cannot accept atonement, meaning, you know, it's over. it's over means everyone is healed. So Jesus over and over again saying together or not at all. But that together, it means you and I and everyone. And there's, there is the ultimate release.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thanks.
Now we'll close with the appointed friend. I need to see what time it is. Oh yes, let's go to the appointed friend. And it's page 553 in the text. 553 in the text.
Just thinking that, thinking about that title is the ego's version of that is the disappointed fiend. Since it's always taking a contrary position to truth.
Yeah. Now, as shortest section in A Course in Miracles, and I found when I read this, it was almost coming from a totally different place than usually I hear this from. I mean, I was hearing it differently, I guess. But it said to me that if you're not with the Holy Spirit, you are utterly alone and helpless and bereft. So he starts out with the world. And Bruce, would you read paragraph 1, please?
Sure. Anything in this world that you believe is good and valuable and worth striving for can hurt you and will do so. Not because it has the power to hurt, but just because you have denied it is but an illusion and made it real. And it is real to you. It is not nothing. And through its perceived reality has entered all the world of sick illusions. All belief in sin, in power of attack, in hurt and harm, in sacrifice and death has come to you. For no one can make one illusion real and still escape the rest. For who can choose to keep the ones that he prefers and find the safety that the truth alone can give? Who can believe illusions are the same and still maintain that even one is best? Pure uncompromising non-duality. And it's kind of a reminder to me reading that is like we just need to be persistent, disciplined, and infinitely gentle and patient with ourselves until we make that complete decision to go beyond all equivocation.
Yep. Let's see, Abby, can you read the next paragraph, please, if you have your book? Okay, great. Now, in this paragraph, before Abby reads, he refers to the one illusion as your only friend. He's referring there to the ego, I believe. That's our only friend, we think. All right.
Lead not your life in solitude with the one illusion as your only friend. This is no friendship worthy of God's Son, nor one with which he could remain content. Yet God has given him a better friend, in whom all power in earth and heaven rests. The one illusion that you think is friend obscures his grace and majesty from you, and keeps his friendship and forgiveness from your welcoming embrace. Without him, you are friendless. Seek not another friend to take his place. There is no other friend. What God appointed has no substitute. For what illusion can replace the truth?
How do you think about that, Abby?
I think getting to the appointed friend it's a process, and it's got to be reinforced, because a person can, I can see it personally insulting until the continual turning is reinforced, because, oh, I made the wrong decision, I can fix that. And it's like, why would you keep trying to fix it once there's been a recognition that you've made the wrong decision? Okay, go fix it. But you'll never fix it once you recognize you've made the wrong decision. That the correct decision, if you turned it to the Holy Spirit, is going to benefit everyone. So, it's like, well, do what you can.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that the value of the Sangha, so to speak, the community, the value of coming together with others to keep reinforcing that this is possible, and we are beginning to experience more joy and more peace in as a reflection of choosing the Holy Spirit.
Mhm.
It's a reflection of the truth. It's not the truth, but it is definitely a reflection of the truth. And, I think there is value in that, aside from 365 lessons, one a day is a helpful reminder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It gets back to Bruce's R's again, the one illusion that is not our friend, release, and the one that is, replace.
Yes. Yeah. Let's see. David, would you read the last paragraph, 3?
Okay. Who dwells with shadows is alone indeed, and loneliness is not the will of God. Would you allow one shadow to usurp the throne that God appointed for your friend? If you but realized its emptiness has left yours empty and unoccupied. Make no illusion, friend, for if you do, it can but take the place of him whom God has called your friend. And it is he who is your only friend in truth. He brings you gifts that are not of this world, and only he, to whom they have been given, can make sure that you receive them. He will place them on your throne when you make room for him on his. He will place them on your throne when you make room for him on his. Fascinating.
It's interesting. I saw that, the idea of us having a throne, which I don't know any other place in the Course where he speaks about the throne other than that we took God off his throne. We usurped him and we put the ego on the throne. But
we wanted to be king.
Yeah, we wanted to be the king. And now he's speaking about, the mountain of, there's a mountain, and we have to stay on top of that mountain, in the sense of, I have a kingdom, I must rule. That lesson, I don't know the number of it, but he says, I have a kingdom, I must rule. And that kingdom is the kingdom of the mind. And I need to stay on top of that, on the throne, so to speak, on top of that, and not fall down off that mountain, because I have to watch my mind. I have to pay attention to what's going on in my mind.
Did you ever play King of the Hill when you were a kid?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I grew up in New Hampshire, and we used to build big mountains of snow in the schoolyard, and then we play, King of the Mountain, where you're who's going to stay on top of the mountain. Thanks for that image, because it's sort of like that. We know in our day, I know anyway, when I'm starting to fall off the mountain. I start getting irritated over little things that Tim does, or I start having negative thoughts about anything. It's like, whoops, down off the throne, get back up on the throne. But it's not in an ego way at all. So, yeah. All right. The appointed friend, I think it's a wonderful section to remember now and then.
It kind of encapsulates the whole course.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? Yes. All right, I'm going to close with a lesson. And I know I marked it. Hold on, everyone. Closing lesson. Here it is. It's lesson 287. You are my goal, Father, my Father, and only you. That lesson, page 441. And you will notice he doesn't mention the Holy Spirit in here, but we've already learned that it is the Holy Spirit is his gift to us to bring us home to God. So even though God isn't mentioned, we decide for the Holy Spirit, who will decide for God for us. So here we go. We'll take a few minutes of quiet before the end of our meeting. You are my goal, Father. Only you. Where would I go but heaven? What could be a substitute for happiness? What gift would I prefer before the peace of God? What treasure would I seek and find and keep that can compare with my identity? And would I rather live with fear than love? You are my goal, my Father. What but you could I desire to have? What way but that which leads to you could I desire to walk? And what, except the memory of you, could signify to me the end of dreams and futile substitutions for the truth? You are my only goal. Your Son would be as you created him. What way but this could I expect to recognize myself and be at one with my identity? And so today we ask the Holy Spirit to decide for God, for me, for you, for everyone. All right. Let's go our way rejoicing in the endless love of God over and over and over.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks.
Yes. Have a
That's
blessed
great.
day.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.